Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the intro. And thank you everybody for waiting for me, and I'm really sorry for the delay. I was having some issues with Teams. I wasn't able uh, to join the event, but now I'm here, and let's recover some of the lost time. So, my name is Nico Fernandez. I've been working with Dynamics for the last 10 years. Dynamics CE, CRM back then 365 CE, and of course, then Power Platform. So, whatever is Microsoft Business Application is something I've been working on the last 10 years. But I started with my career on low code, no code a little earlier. So, in 2009, with a different platform, with Sure CRM, and because I'm not a developer, for me, I approach it as a completely no code, low code experience. Uh, Currently, I am working at HCL Tech as a solution director. So basically, I lead the solution team or the pre-sales team for EMEA and APAC. Um, for again, everything that is Dynamics 365, customer engagement, and the Power Platform. I'm a Microsoft MVP. I'm also an MCT, so I really enjoy participating in the community in different countries like today. Last week with the Global Power Platform Bootcamp was kind of a work tour for me, trying to join many events and trying to share some insight with different topics. So that is a quick introduction. My LinkedIn, if you want to connect, at the end of the presentation, you will have it as well. And if you have any doubt, of course, after this presentation, if you have any concern, you can contact me, and I will be more than pleased to help you and to give you a response. So today we are going to discuss about this hyper automation, right? Revolutionize, creating a revolution with document automation processing, or document processing and process mining. The idea is to connect these two components from Microsoft, that is the document automation toolkit and the process mining tool. But before that, as a quick intro, we're going to discuss what is hyper automation, or what does it mean for the Power Platform, right? Because it is deeply entangled. Then we are going to, I'm going to present the idea of mixing everything together, why could be a good idea, and of course, how we could achieve that. In the middle, we are going to do a few demos, both from document automation toolkit and process mining. So without further intro, okay, here I think I forgot to include a few animations, but I'm sorry, automations. So I'm going to be triggering animations manually. So when we talk about hyper automation, everybody thinks about RPA, right? That's probably the first thing we think about. And when we discuss hyper automation projects, it is the first technology that the customers comes in the mind. But actually, if you talk about hyper automation, and this is something that Microsoft shares as point of view, uh, you're discussing a lot of more things, right? You discuss also about the low code platform to build applications. You discuss about business process automation. You discuss about AI platform, integration platform. You talk about intelligent document processing. You talk about process and task mining, document management, and you talk about bots, basically conversational artificial intelligence, right? And if we map all these things with Microsoft products, you can see it in the different icons, different technology that we're discussing, right? We talk about a lot of Power Automate in the different flavors: cloud flows, desktop flows, process mining, DPAs. What we talk about as well is the wider Power Platform. We talk about Power Apps with the low code application development. We talk about a lot of Azure with the AI, with the new Shen AI, but with machine learning as well, with all the integration capabilities, with a lot of Azure services. Azure itself has intelligent document AI services. So there's a lot of things we can do there, and we can dive into different technologies for for hyper automation. Now, when we talk about it, the first thing it comes to my mind, of course, is the document automation toolkit, because it is a product, let me quote unquote, it is a product anyway, from Microsoft that puts together a lot of these things, not everything, but at least it is a flavor of how we can introduce different multiple of these technologies into an automation solution that will help you with a low code, no code application with some automations built with Power Automate. And then, of course, that with something that we can take it as a starting point in the journey of building our own document automation solution. So for those who doesn't know what a document automation toolkit or that, probably I will mention it as that later, is it is that basically it's a solution that help us. It is a pre-built solution from Microsoft that you can enable. We are going to see that fairly quickly how you can achieve that. You can enable that in your Dataverse environment. It is using Dataverse, of course, and it's leveraging, as I mentioned, of different Power Platform components in order to give you an end-to-end solution that will help you to take documents, extract the information from the documents, process it, run some validations, and at the end of the journey, it will allow you to integrate with different solutions. So depending on your business needs, is what you're going to do with that information. So the definition we have here in screen is something that Microsoft actually presents as the definition of document automation. And it's funny because they mention it combines RPA, but document automation toolkit doesn't have RPA as the starting or the trigger of the process, or even as any part of the process. But of course, you can use it, and we're going to discuss that in a diagram later. Now, what we need to understand here is that as many things that Microsoft does on the Power Platform, it's a starting point, right? They're not calling it starter kit, but it is that in a way. So it is toolkit. It is a collection of tools that we can use, that we can extend depending on our needs, and then these components can be reused, and we can identify different use cases to implement part or completely the complete of the process. When we talk about this, basically we are going to see that the solution is on top of, as I mentioned, Dataverse. You're going to see that there is a Canvas app. We're going to see that in a moment. And there's going to be a few flows that are going to be responsible of doing all this processing, okay, or automating this process. And the process that Microsoft gives you as an out-of-the-box process, it's fairly simple, right? You will receive an email with documents, with attachments. It will do a small validation. Then it will take each one of these attachments and it's going to process them in a way that you can define, actually, right? So it will pass through an AA builder model of your choice. It will extract all the information, and then you can put some validations into the part of the process. And of course, if needed, you're going to be reviewing the document manually and all the extract information. As I say, we need to take this as a starting point, right? So I cannot think any company that will implement this as, plug and play. First of all, because even that there is an out-of-the-box model that you can use to extract information, we are going to see that actually as part of the demo. It is not going to be perfect, and most likely it's not going to be the only scenario that you will want to use, right? So this is, as I say, out-of-the-box process. What is Microsoft offering you right now? So right now it is helping you when you enable this and you install this in your environment. You're going to be able to do one or two things. You could select, a custom AI model from AI Builder for custom documents to extract all the information and then to define as the configuration of the document automation toolkit. Or you can select the pre-built invoice processing model, then of course it's what you're going to take. To try to test it, it is of course easier to do with the pre-built because it is much faster to work with the configuration, but of course that will depend on your needs. Then as part of the roadmap, and here Microsoft's not completely clear on when it's going to be with us, they're going to include two different models, two different models already as a pre-built part of the solution. One is going to be for receipts, the other one for IDs, right, for identity documents. The only disclaimer I always mention here is that even that when that happens, they will rely most likely 99.9% of probabilities on AI builder, receive processing, and the ID processing models, right? And those has its own limitations. So for the IDs, I don't remember right now exactly all the IDs, but if I remember correctly, it's US passports, probably US driving license, and mostly US documents were, at least until last year. For receipts, not every language and every country, of course, it will be a fit. But depending where you are, depending on your customer, could be a fit. Even that Microsoft saying that coming soon, you can get it. Of course, if you can say that this is a starting kit, or you can consider this as a starting kit, you could potentially take it and say, hey, you know what? We are going to extend it. So instead of choosing an AI model from a document processing, you could extend the solution. So actually, you could select a receipt processing or an ID processing model, and then use the same kind of a process flow, extract the information, and use it on your business process. So it's like any other Power Platform solution. You're of course able to extend. Then, as part of the output, and this is where I see the most value from Microsoft solution, they are working, or they're claiming to be working in the roadmap on two potential outputs to export. Sorry, one to export, but the other one to import the information. So it's not only what are the information that you're going to be able to extract, but also how you're going to work with it. So in this case, they work with SharePoint and the Microsoft FNO as part of the roadmap. The idea is, if you're exporting invoices, right? If you have an invoice and you're processing that, you're extracting all the information, of course, you want to put it on an ERP, right? It's again 99.9% of the cases you want to do it for an ERP. You want to automate that. It's like a purchase order, right? You will want to do that. As part of that, to have a pre-built configuration to FNO. Of course, it will save time to do that, but this is not yet done. And there's an even the description doesn't match with the title. The idea is also to include as the importer coming from SharePoint. Basically, right now you're going to see that, and I mentioned before, the solution itself, it starts with email processing or email extraction flow. So it works on Outlook, right? So that's your trigger point. Of course, again, and as I say, you can change that as you will. It's a really, really high level process for what Microsoft is proposing here with the document automation toolkit. Microsoft says, okay, you will receive a document, you will extract all the information, we can run some validations, but if needed, some human can go there and do confirm, correct data that is extracted, and then you can export this data to whatever you want, ERP or any target of your choice. And of course, you should monitor this. You should supervise what is happening. So if you identify something that could improve, you can do that. And then you can imagine that's where we're going to be targeting to use process mining. So that as a quick intro of what is document automation toolkit. If it is the first time you see it, hopefully it will make sense. So I'm going to switch now to, and let me switch here to the demo, first demo of the day. Okay. So basically, and as I say, you have these as part of your environment, right? So you can directly go to make.powerautomate.com, choose your environment, where you want to install it, and you need to go to the AI Hub. Okay, and the AI Hub, again, if you don't play with AI Builder a lot or with the AI capabilities, now you see a few surprises, right? A few new things. We usually had the AI models. Now we also have the AI prompts. That's something new using Shen AI. We're not going to discuss that today. And then, of course, you have what is our the purpose of this session, the document automation. So when you click here, you'll find, of course, the definition you saw before, kind of the high level process I was explaining, which is the solution that you want to use. And as I said, as you can see, the only one that is available here to select is this one. And to install it is as easy as this wizard. right? If you have the right privileges, then first thing it will do, it will install the solution. As you can see here, it can take about 10 minutes to do it. Then you need to create or select connections. This is fairly easy. You are probably you do it all the time. Let me create. Okay. And let's create this one as well. Okay, we're good. Now, once you have this, you just need to do the configuration. So this is all you need to do. There's nothing crazy. You need to think, okay, what should I, where should I start? What do I need to do here to, well, there's a error here. Don't worry about that. But that's basically what you need to do. Now, one of the solutions that install and it's, you know, it's the key part of this is the document automation base kit, right? And it has not many components as you can see. It has, of course, connection references. It has a Canvas app that you can see here. It has about 6 tables that will be used to extract all the information. So if we click here to see just the tables, you see it's all about the configuration, the data that we're extracting, the instance of the processing, then some other configurations that you need for the taxonomy. Okay. And all of these, again, it is part of the install. And it has only 3 cloud flows. The first one is the email importer. We're going to see that in a second. Second one is processor and then validator. And this is actually the order they are going to be executed. So the first one, basically what it does, it's going to be listening into your email, your mailbox. It comes directly for to be used with the mailbox. You could share that to be triggered with a share mailbox if you prefer, of course, because you don't necessarily is going to receive the email on your mailbox. That's for you to choose. And then of course it will do. Sorry, it will get the configuration for each one. It will create a new process. Document processing that is kind of a header of all the entire document that is going to be processed. It will upload and then it will validate if it's an it's a valid document or not, and then it's going to update the processing, and that's going to trigger the next step of the journey. That's basically the validation. Sorry, the processing. That we're not going to see each one of the boxes, but just that because it does a lot of things with the taxonomies to identify all the mapping things it needs to do. But basically, it will take the attachment, it will get the model, and then it will do all the extractions, and it will be mapping everything on the right with the right table, right? And then it will get everything again, and this is going to update the processing standard. This is the important part, right? So every step of the journey, you will be processing the status. Here, then it will do the validation. This is the last one. And again, if the how do you say, if the confidence level is good enough, you're going to be having these, sorry, validation passing through, and if not, it's going to say that you need a manual validation. So how does it work? Basically, this is the Canvas app that you'll see. We can refresh these. I think there's nothing processing. No, I have the email ready to be sent. So I'm going to send now. Let me see where I have it. Here, an email with several attachments, and this is the nice part, right? So it doesn't have to be one, but for each one of the attachments that you should see, you will create one different instance because the life cycle of each one of the different processings are going to be taken from here. So I just received it. We can see here the alert that I just received the email. So it will take just a few seconds to run the flows. If I go back, probably I can refresh here and see when it starts the processing. Now it's running. So if I refresh here, I can see that it's extracting data on all these documents, and for each one of these, it is creating a new record, right? And I will be able to track the life cycle of these. And again, this is the key part of the today's session, right? Because we want to analyze the process, how the process goes, and even that on the out of the box, there's many things that are completely automated. That's where we need to start thinking, okay, our business needs and where things are going to change. So as you can see, these are the different status that are defined as out of box. So the same document could start from uploading the document, extracting data, validating data, manual review, validated. If the document is not a valid format, it will go to invalid document. And if at any point there is an error, it will go to an error. If we refresh, now we can see that this is already validated. These are to be invalidated, and this is being extracted yet. And I guess you got this advanced. And the same thing we could see if you go back, how things are being processed here. Now everything has been processed. And for the last one, the validation, there's one still running. Okay. Hope everything makes sense for the moment. So now everything is validated. And we can see now, okay, what is happening with this. Basically, you can open this and it will show you on the left the document itself. So here you can see, you can actually zoom, see the information, and this is using, we're going to see the configuration in 1 second. This is using the invoice processing, the out-of-box invoice processing model. So that's why you see a lot of fields that are not being processed or they're not being identified. And for that reason, it tells you, you know what, it's a 0% 0% of confidence, right? And this one, it tells you it's 65%, 97%. So all this information is important because that's where you can actually define what is threshold. Here, there's no threshold identified, so that's why it went to validate it automatically. But you can configure what is the confidence threshold that you want to define, and your do the manual validation. Now, this is the out of the box process. Only force you to do, or it only tells you to do a manual validation if the confidence level is low. But here's where you can start actually extending your process. If this is actually an invoice and I need to integrate, let's say, with SAP, maybe what I want to see is, okay, I want to validate the customer name, or I want to validate the customer address, or whatever other information I have on SAP about the customer before actually integrating that. And if we identify any slightly difference, maybe the confidence level is not just on the confidence on the extraction, but actually how does it match with the information that we have in our ERP. Instead of sending the information, because maybe the confidence level was high, 99%, but when you compare with the SAP information, maybe it's not that good. Then is where you want to do some manual validations. Again, you can use the out-of-box status to implement your own processes, and you can define as as long the process you want. All things that are quite common here to extend is to include approval processes. Again, when you talk about sending information and financial information to the ERP, you may want to include some approvals, and maybe even you want a delegation of authority, or as complex is the process you want. All of that can be also tracked in custom states, right? So even that part of this process can be completely automated. When you start extending that and you start including some manual steps, even before you send this to SAP or your ERP of choice, you could extend that process here while you're um, processing the document, and you can track all those stats on the life cycle. And that's the same case ID, right? Or I'm starting to use process mining technology, right? And on the same document processing record, each one of these are different document processing records, right? Now, how is this configured? If we see here, we have one document processing configuration, and this is something that, of course, uh, I would recommend to extend, and that's something that at HCL we are actually building an IP based on this approach. Uh, in this case, it allows you only one active configuration at a time, right? So that's something, as I say, I will encourage you, if you're going to use this, to change that, because it is most likely that you will need more than one. But basically here, it is quite straightforward, right? It tells you, okay, choose your model, and this is the only one. This is a pre-built, as you can see here. But if you create a new one, yes, you will see it here. If you create one, you will click here, reload, and you will see your process. When you select it, now you need to go next. And basically, based on the model that you selected and the data that is configured to extract, it will allow you to say, do all the mapping here. It will show you all the mapping. And this is the taxonomy that's going to be used later. And the same for the tables, right? So in this case, you have how many? 8? Yeah, 8 columns configuring the table. Now you save it, and it's done. And that's something I didn't show you, but on the extraction, you don't only have the fields, but you also have the tables, right? And in this case, you can see that the table here is only 4 columns. So there are 4 columns missing, and it's showing you that, so you can actually, yeah, uh, identify maybe there's a problem, maybe you're not using the right model for this process. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So let's jump back to the presentation. So now we know what is document automation toolkit. Let's really quickly discuss about process mining. So process mining is, I would say, it's one of the latest Power Platform acquisitions. If we remove everything that is co-pilot, that is a change that that you will see a change every day. But it's one of the latest Power Platform acquisitions, and I say this is because it was a third-party solution Microsoft acquired, and then of course, as always, they rebranded and then they embed into the Power Platform. They created a lot of new features for it. The key objective is to allow you to analyze your processes, right? The idea is that you need to track the different status or the different stages and actions that your process go through. And with that information, you will uh, upload it. You can use, how do you say, Power Query to connect the information, the data. You could extend this for not only custom matrix, but also more visualizations. But I'm going to keep it as out of the box as possible in the explanation. You will upload this and you will have a visual representation and a lot of KPIs uh, to help you identify and understand what is happening with your process, right? So from the time that it's going to take you from end to end of your process to identify the fastest, time, the longest time, the average time, if there's any recurrent task that is happening, why that is happening, right? It's because it is part of the process that you have kind of a loop, or it's because you're doing a rework. If there's any branches, different points in the process that could open more than one branch. And that information or that analysis will completely depend on the information that you create, the logs that you uh, create in order to do the analysis. As anything that is data related, if your data is not good, your analysis is not going to be good. So I believe, I don't remember exactly, I believe it's 4 fields that you need as minimum to start working on the process mining. That is, what is the case ID? And the case ID is basically, in this scenario, it will be the document processing, right? This is the ID of the document that I'm processing, okay? And that's going to be the life cycle I'm going to analyze. So case ID is basically that the record that you're going to see how it goes. It's not, doesn't have to be a record, right? Because you can change from one record to another. So it could be the lead to the opportunity, to the quote, to the offer, to the order, to the invoice. All of that could jump to different records, but of course, you need to be able to track the same ID, the same case ID across the different stages. Then you need to identify what is the action, what is the stage you are on, and the start date of the action. And the end date is not mandatory. It is recommended, mostly because if you put any end date, it will assume that the end date of the one action is the start date of the next one, right? So that's when you will see. But maybe, and this is more common than you think about it. Maybe what you have is a shorter first step, and then you have a gap in, a time that nothing happens, and then the second action actually happens by actually tracking the end date of each one of the actions and the stages, you will be able to identify those moments in the process where could be optimized because it's that time basically. So for process mining, the idea here is that you will discover what's happening with your processes, and you will identify those processes, do the process map, identify all the interactions, get all these insights, and start identifying these improvement opportunities. You can get recommendations from the solution, and you will get some KPIs, as I mentioned before, to identify, for example, the root cause of the problems. That is, you should be using this to optimize and transform your operations, and then of course this will create more data that you need to discover, and it's an infinite loop, right? If you think that every process in your organization is perfect, then you are certainly wrong. The process, and I say before, it starts with ingestion. It will give you visualization. It will help you to get some AI-driven insights, and of course, you will be able to leverage on some specific data, process mining, Power BI visualizations. The idea here is, as I say, have the best information. I think when discussing with customers, I always say the same. This is not a technical problem per se. It's not it's not like building an application or an automation. It is a data problem, right? So you need to identify, understand your process. You need to identify what is the data that you need to track, where is that happening, and how you can track the data. The technical problem then is going to be probably to create those logs, but it's not going to be the major part of the project. We are going to see part of this in process mining. I'm conscious of time. I'm trying to accelerate a little bit, but basically, it will allow you to see how your process is it's being executed. It'll allow you to compare if you have multiple variances of the process. You're going to be able to to compare those and to analyze one against the other. As I mentioned before, it allows you to not only visually but also understand on data, right? Understand when rework is happening, right? And trying to understand why is that. There is, as I mentioned before as well, an AI component that will allow you to analyze the root cause of problems that your process may have, and you will be able to also define some rules to for your process alerts. This is something this part I'm not going to lie to you. I'm still on custom matrix. I didn't start playing around yet, but you're going to be able to extend this not only to take the custom, the native matrix and views and visualizations. You can actually export this to Power BI and work with the full power of Power BI in order to get it. And this is the most important part, I will say, from solution point of view. It comes with out-of-the-box templates ready to use. Use cases are mostly financial use cases, and it will help you to connect with F&O, with SAP. It is quite common to see these need mostly where, in the money-driven processes, that's where the optimization can save a lot of money, right? So Microsoft, as we saw in the other case, has a roadmap on different templates to show. Now, where does these two solutions come together, could work together? So this visualization animation tries to represent what is happening with the documentation toolkit, right? You will have a source, you will be integrating, orchestrating, and processing with Power Automate, basically, right? The email importer, the processing and the validation will be, and then you can analyze, you can see what's happening with the Canvas app. And as I say, this is what the documentation toolkit provides us. Now, I told you before, it's a starting point, right? It's a starter kit. Then after you export, you create all the information, you extract all the information, you need to think, okay, what do I need to do with this? And as I gave you some examples, do I need to validate some information with SAP, or do I need to integrate and send this to SAP? Do I have the system on cloud, on the cloud? Do I have it on premise? So that's where actually you have the orchestration, integration, on the way back. And of course, you have your origin, then now you have your target system. And if you think
Just a
this,
just a question, Nicholas.
yeah,
Regarding okay, so You've mentioned a couple of times about SAP's use cases. Um, so yeah, it's really interesting because I'm currently like sort of working with SAP's S4 HANA as well as the BI stack, the business warehouse application. Where do you think that integration point comes in with the Power Apps platform when it comes to, sort of integrating with SAP's S4HANA or SAP's ERP systems?
Well, if so, one point will be these type of scenarios, use cases where you need to import information. You need to process it before you actually send it to SAP. Another point
Okay.
will be, and it's completely different of these, and it is harder and more expensive to extend SAP UI. So you can actually quickly build something on Power Apps, even use Dataverse as a temporary instance to manage the data and then to integrate with SAP. I haven't worked myself with the connectors, not even the new one. Part of my team, people on my team have, and they faced a few challenges. Even the actually Microsoft launches, I believe last year, a few templates for Power Apps that came already with some, I think the sales order process already configured with some screens. And actually, it's really nice the architecture on Canvas app because actually it jumped from one Canvas app to another, right? Um, so I would say SAP surround strategy, it is strong for Microsoft. Sometimes it's more the intent of what you can do than what you actually can do out of the box. But that's where the investment actually Microsoft is putting on helping on these templates, right? Without the templates, it will be, I'm not going to say as painful as working directly on SAP, but it is not as easy, right? So the templates is a huge investment that Microsoft we know is doing.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. So again, this could be or this will be the end-to-end process when you talk about documentation toolkit, right? You start with a document that will receive whatever, in this case, the email. You integrate, you process, you extract information, then you define and you decide what you want to do with the information, and then you send it to whatever you want. And to be able to track all that end-to-end process where process mining could enter. So if we go back to this diagram, I actually remove on purpose the monitor because it's too generic monitor at the end. Uh, this is the process, right? To create, a document processing instance, that will be the case ID, right? That's where you're going to track the life cycle of what you're doing. You will track and you can create a custom log for every stage of the process on Document Automation Toolkit for the native stages, but also as I mentioned, if you create some approval processes, those stages, that's something you want to track as well to know who's approving, how much time they're taking to approve, if the approval is rejected and it goes back, and all that stages. Then you can create a custom log for every stage of the process on the target system. Using again the invoice example, you have everything that's happening on the documentation toolkit. You can extend with the approval process here. Then it will go to SAP. Maybe you create it, or maybe the approval process happening in SAP, and that's a common scenario as well, right? And you could leverage following on your question. You could have Power Automate approvals directly on SAP. So if you have that, you can track what is happening on SAP with this invoice, when it's approved, then when it's processed, and at the end of the day, when you pay it, right? And you could track potentially the end-to-end of that process, both happening in Document Automation Toolkit and on your target system. And that's where you want to analyze for inefficiency. So you will have what the Document Automation Toolkit kind of gives you, and then you will extend and you will continue with process mining to have that end-to-end scenario. I'm going to quickly go to process mining. Again, sorry for I'm kind of in a rush. This is the desktop application for process mining, right? So it has two versions. One version that is web, it's really easy to use as well. But this one we will give you a lot more KPIs. As I mentioned before, for me, process mining it's something I'm still learning a lot. It is quite big, and it's a completely different way of thinking our platform, right? It is not to create an application flow, whatever, it's to analyze. So you need to change your mind to the way you see things to start working with this. So as you can see, this is a great visualization of process, and there's a few key things before closing the session today. Um, you can identify we have 133 cases happen across everything, right? We can see that started with 133 and it ended with 133. And at some point, it start the branches, right? And you will see a lot of, if you try to add everything, it won't give you 133. Why? Because there's some rework. You can see the rework on the arrows that goes back from one step to the other. So you can identify really quickly here that something is happening here that is forcing you to rework. What you can do, you can start clicking here. This is an example. This is sample data for this demo. But so basically, you have a really straightforward part of the process where you actually upload the document, extract the data, validate the data. Data is validated, and then you send the invoice to SAP. Then you need to check customer payment or maybe check payment received, right? And that's where you start seeing the branches. Here you can see how many cases. Again, the case is the process itself, right? The instance of the process. You can see here 9 came here, but here you have 12. Why you have 12? Because you have 3 that require rework. Okay, so you can click on that and it will tell you, okay, you have 3 here. That's the percentage of the total. So it is not significant. It's less than 1% of the cases that actually need rework. But you can see that actually 2 cases. So it is 3 times, but only 2 cases. That means that 1 required, so the maximum occurrences in the case was 2. So 1 happened twice, the other one happened only once. And you can see here different KPIs of the performance and specific KPIs of the rework that, again, in this case is not that heavy. Here you can see that once the invoice is rejected, could be approved or could be rejected. You can refund with standard voucher that will go here, complete the customer memo that could come here as well or not. Again, you could see that here came 48, 45 came here. That means there is a gap again on what is entering and what is exiting. So 3 of these cases that came back here are the ones that came here, and then of course they probably came to an invoice, approved invoice. Something that is quite amazing, really nice to see, and I'm going to finish this with this animation, is the way you can actually see how the process, with all the timestamps, you can see how all these processes are being processed, when they stop in one stage, when they're blocked, how they pass different gates of the process. That's something you can see in this animation, right? So it will help you also to understand things to consider if you start tracking things like who is the person doing something, what is the department, what is the role of the person. You can start identifying the root cause, right? What is actually happening. If you only have the stage, the action itself, the task, the starting date, the information you will have is going to be quite poor. But if you start having information such as who, from which section, area, as I say, or the role, then you can try to identify, okay, maybe it's a department that is not as efficient as we need. Maybe it's one person that is a bottleneck. And why is that? Maybe he's receiving a lot of things and the distribution is not correct. Maybe that person went on holiday and we didn't have any process, to balance the work and, to avoid him to receive things because he was on annual leave, right? Those are things you need in order to have a better understanding of the process, and of course to identify and have those um, improvement opportunities identified. So sorry again for being late on the session. I'm trying to end that time, being respectful with the next speaker. Hope this session gives you some insights on both document automation toolkit and process mining, and why it's important to start thinking on the wider picture when we talk about Power Platform and the art of the possible. I believe customers expect that from us, because things are quite connected. Microsoft is investing a lot to connect things better. Maybe they're not connected perfectly at the beginning because they acquire different solutions, but for sure, at the end of the road, Microsoft is doing a huge effort to help us to see the entire thing as one platform. Again, thank you, LinkedIn, QR and link if you want to connect and continue this conversation offline.
Thanks, Nicholas. Thanks for your
On-
time. Can
Online,
you
but
hear?
different on.
Yeah, it's a very cool session. So there's one question from our attendee, and it's asking what specific benefits can organization expect from implementing this innovative approach to document processing? So that's the
Okay,
whole question.
part of what example I was giving you, right? So if you can identify that one person is creating a bottleneck in a process, and that process impacts, for example, in the invoicing process, right? You're not being able to uh, pay your mm, vendors in time, or maybe you're not being paid on time because somebody is creating a bottleneck. Now, is the person's fault? It's because the person doesn't have I don't know, they need to do an approval and they are traveling all the time and they don't have a mobile application to approve things. Maybe that is the issue. Maybe, as I say, you have that person went on annual leave or he's sick or maternity leave or whatever, and that is creating the problem, right? So by identifying why the processes are not as smooth as possible, you could potentially save money. You could have a better times on your internal processes, and you can also identify opportunities to automate. If you identify that everything is straightforward, maybe you need to see, okay, maybe we can automate something here and even make it faster. So I would say that that is one of the key benefits.
Fantastic, fantastic. It's so good. And the session itself is really informative. And the demo you present, like it's all good. Yeah, I think everyone enjoyed it. Yeah, thanks a lot, Nicholas.